Are you using wash right now?
No, it's acrylic.
Acrylic.
Yeah. I'm just doing like a really thin wash, so I kind of work it up slowly, but you just do it in layers, at least the way I do it.
And then you get more detail as each layer goes on.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I left my oils at home, which is usually how I finish them, so I try to, when I'm doing the proofs, I try to work it up quite a bit with acrylic first, and then I finish it with the oils. But since I don't have the oils, I'm going to just finish it with the acrylics, which should be fine.
Since this is a proof, when if we're going for a final product, will you do strictly oil paint as well, or will you start with the acrylic also?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
Oh, sorry. So you had said this was a proof.
Yeah.
And so when you're going for, when you're doing your larger painting,
Yeah.
do you start with acrylic as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Can you guys see what I'm doing anyway?
Yes.
Okay.
We're just staring intently at your forehead.
Great. You're not going to learn much that way.
So for the detail in animals, do you study like just realistic photos? How do you when you were asked to do a shark, do you have background of shark and you have to study the biology of the shark to get that kind of detail into it?
Not so much studying, just a lot of referencing. You can't really, when you use any kind of photo reference, you can't just copy a photo. You have to kind of work with a bunch of different ones and redraw things, and you never find a reference that's exactly the way that you drew your sketch. So it's like a somewhat involved process of piecing it all together and making it make sense somehow. But yeah.
So you don't have to know, the inner workings of the shark as much as how to make it look exactly like the shark.
No, no, you don't. I mean, I know like when guys do like animated movies and they're illustrating animals running and doing all kinds of things. I know they go to zoos and they or whatever wherever they can to study them, and they do sketching and everything just to really get the movement right and all that kind of stuff, the way they react to things. But you know, for this, it's not as involved, I don't think so.
So you're not going swimming with sharks?
No, not ever. Never, ever, ever. It's one of my biggest fears in the whole world, and there's no way it's happening.
With the artist groups, is it more of a struggle to work on such a small canvas?
It can be. I try to usually when I do the proofs, I try to like make the image zoomed in quite a bit, so I don't have to do that. But there's certain times like this windsurfer that's kind of small, but there's really not a whole lot of detail that I'm doing on it.
Go to school to study art?
I went to school to study art, but I didn't get a degree. So I just kind of took a lot of classes and tried to get my skills up to par. But I didn't learn how to paint in college. It was kind of after college. I kind of improved my drawing skills at college and worked on composition and things like that, color theory, all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until way after that, really. I was working on a portfolio. I was reading a lot of books. The Boris Vallejo art techniques book, I learned a lot from that. And then I started going to conventions, and I met a lot of artists and watched them. They do like tutorials like this, and so I'd sit in the front row and like watch them and ask lots of questions like you guys are doing. And that's really kind of how I learned, from watching and reading books. You know, when it sounds it dates me, but when I first started out, there was really not much of an internet, so you didn't go on there to look at YouTube videos or anything like I can do now. It's like I can learn anything now on YouTube, but like back then it wasn't that way. So exactly.
Were you always into the realism or like the nature type thing, or was your fascination?
Realism for sure. Yeah. And I'm into nature for sure. Not sharks though, just to look at them from a distance. Yeah, Jaws ruined me, man. I can't go anywhere near I can go in the water, but I can't have my feet hanging down. Like, that's not going to happen.
Single color until you're happy with that layer and then moving to another color, or are you switching back and forth?
I'm kind of mixing them a little bit as I go along. you really don't, for the most part, you really don't sway too far away from the color, really. You're kind of, you know, like right now the whole shark itself is kind of in the cooler realm of the color, so everything that I'm adding is kind of having a little bit of blue mixed into it, to keep it all related to each other. So yeah, it's mostly, yeah, all in that range at the moment. And I'm really just trying to get the structure and the lights and darks, and I'm not really going in doing a whole lot of detailing yet. Yes.
No.
You're needed back in that room over there.
Were there any other types of sharks that kind of stuck out to you that you thought, oh, this would be a cool painting? Like, say, like a goblin shark, just because that's the most interesting thing I can think of.
Not in this particular instance. I mean, the art suggestion was just paint a giant shark. You know, that was really it. So, you know, I was just kind of trying to find as many horribly scary sharks as I could possibly find and figure out how I could draw them. But and this is the first shark I've ever painted. The one for the sorcery was the first one. So no, I just tried to do that for size, and I, you know, because it's fantasy, I couldn't add like a, you know, a boat on, or, you know, a submarine or something weird like that. So I just was trying to think of something that size-wise would make sense, you know.
Yeah, definitely just as good. But I think it's interesting you say you try to make it as least scary as possible. Because there's not many peaceful scenes to put a shark in.
No. So is this everybody's first sorcery tournament? Have you been to a few of them? First? Yeah, it's my first one too.
What's the one in Seattle?
Oh yeah? I've never been to Seattle.
That was my first time. It wasn't raining, so.
There you go.
Yeah.
Same experience. The first time I went there, like it barely rained. It's weird.
I know. I live up in New York State, up by Ithaca College, Cornell, and I've never been to Seattle, but it seems like it's very similar weather. It's very wet, rainy, dreary a lot, but when it's not, it's beautiful.
I don't care.
What's your earliest memory of a drawing or painting?
Well, when I was in like elementary school, I was always drawing, trying to copy pictures of like snakes and lizards out of all the books in the library, and did that a lot. Dinosaurs, of course, the dinosaurs back then were drawn with their tails on the ground. So. Yeah, when I was little, I wanted to be a herpetologist. That was like the big thing, but I mean, I didn't really know how to do anything with art until probably early 20s.
Yeah.
You know, I looked at a lot of art. I looked at a lot of, I grew up looking at all the old horror fanzines like Creepy and Eerie and seeing most of my favorite artists on the covers, but I had no idea, you know, how they were making a living. I didn't even think about it. I just liked the pictures, you know.
Yeah.
And then after that, of course, album covers and like Iron Maiden covers and things like that. And I'm like, man, how do you get this work? How do you do this? How do you get the jobs? And just didn't know anything about it. But eventually built up the portfolio and just started sending out samples. I was just look at whatever products I was looking at, look up the address, send my samples to those companies. And one day went into a gaming store and at the mall and saw all the Dungeons and Dragons stuff, which I'd never seen before. And like, wow, it's like, holy crap, like look at all this fantasy art. And so I took down their address and sent them samples, and they got back to me and got me I'm not sure if it was an interior piece that was my first one or if it was a dungeon cover. No, it was TSR before they sold it to WotC. So, yeah. Started off doing interiors, then I did some magazine covers, Dungeons and Dragon covers, and then started doing interior module paintings, and then they were looking for a staff artist and asked me if I wanted to do it. I said, sure. So that was it. Started working there. That's not good. Drew's gonna kill me. I'm trashing his cover. I wonder what I want to do with that. Drew doesn't get too worked up about anything, so he's probably going to be fine with it.
So you said you wanted to be a herpetologist. Do you have any reptiles?
I did when I was a kid, all the time. Like, you know, I was always out looking for snakes and bringing them home. My mother loved that. One morning she had gotten up to make breakfast, and one of the snakes got out of the cage, and it was in the oven, and she opened it, and it like jumped out at her. No. They're like little garter snakes, so it's, you know, it wasn't like a python or something crazy, but yeah.
My son's really into ants right now, so.
Oh.
Yeah. Said he's gonna be a herpetologist.
There you go.
Okay. He wants an ant farm. They're gonna have an ant farm.
Ants are cool.
Yeah, they are. I've learned so much about ants that I never thought I'd want to know. You got an 11-year-old. He's all into ants. We go to the playground. His sister plays on the swings, and he's looking at anthills.
Oh. I just like ants.
guides on the realistic guides are always a thing.
Yeah, well, I don't have a reference in front of me, so I'm just trying to remember it from memory. But I don't know. I'm trying to make it look like it's rolling back a little bit, because that always freaks me out when I see them do that.
That like separate island thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna work.
Looks like little island reference.
No, I'm not gonna worry about it. Like I said, I'm not going to finish it while I'm sitting here. It's just not going to happen. So I can go finish it up back at the room later. That's right. Oops, there we go.
I'm always curious, is there like a lot, or how big of a percentage of the work that you do you just end up trashing?
Do I what?
Hate it. How much of the work that you do that you end up just trashing because you hate it? How much?
No. I mean, I'm not saying I haven't done paintings I didn't like, because I have. A lot of my stuff that I did for Magic, I hope I never see again. So. You know, the stuff that I'm doing for sorcery is different just because of the way the approach that they're taking as far as the art direction and the freedom that you get as an artist. It's the art description is very basic, and there's no style guide like Magic. They're pretty hands off. So there's a lot of freedom to just read the description and do whatever. There's no theme. I mean, Arthurian Legends, I guess I felt like there was a theme, so I had to kind of stick to that. But even with that said, you still could go off on a tangent and do something weird. So, you know, I like that part of it a lot. And for the most part, Eric does not ask you to do too many corrections. Usually it's looks great, pays you, and you're done. Once in a while he'll say, can you just do this? Can you just make that a little brighter? Can you just tweak that? Can you just push that back a little bit? I did something for the third set that I'm working on now, where the very first painting was like I don't know if you would call it an artifact, but it was something along those lines, where it was like a device of some sort, and he wanted me to push everything back out of focus, which is kind of hard when you're doing a painting that you want to sell and you want it to look like a cool painting. But like, you're going to do this whole painting and everything's going to be a blur except for the focal point in the middle. So it's kind of like, do you really want that? But yeah. So that was kind of tricky because I had never done that before. So it's kind of like something you would do with a camera, you know, where you're just, you know, short depth of field. But it turned out pretty cool. It really did. But definitely something I'd never done before. Yeah.
That's nice to hear. I can see it with Magic. They probably send you like 2 pages worth of description.
Well, yeah, they do. It didn't start out that way, though. It started out kind of the way sorcery is, so where they would just give you a one-line description and you kind of had free reign for the most part. I mean, they did, you know, I think in the early days they did want to have continuity, so there was that, but but it was different then. It just started to get to the point where it's, you know, you're getting a style guide, and, you know, all these great artists are doing all the concept work, and then to me it was hard because you would see all this great art already figured out for you, but then they're saying don't copy it, but it has to look like it fits in with that, and then do your own spin on it. And then, like, so then you start, like, every step, for me, it was just like every step of the way, I'm questioning, like, am I copying it? Am I doing something that's too far away from it? Am I doing my own, like, you know, and I don't know, that just kind of starts to take away from it a bit. So,
Do you know how many pieces you have in Arthurian Legends?
18. And there might be 2 or 3 from Alpha that didn't get put in the first set, that might be bumped to this set, so I'm not sure about that. And so far, 15 for the third set.
Does that change your compensation? I don't know if this is, you know, I haven't heard this, but like if they choose to use it in the set or not, do they commission you any differently based on whether or not?
No, you're paid up front, and then whether sometimes they don't, I know, like with Magic, like there's times where they just, you know, as the set's developing, whatever paintings you did, they thought was going to fit a certain way, and then they decide it doesn't fit anymore, and then they just don't put it in the set, and they hold on to it figuring like, well, maybe we'll put it in the next set or the next set or the next set. So then, you know, but you're already paid for it. So the only time it sucks is if you're sending them a painting, instead of scanning it for them, you're sending them the actual painting. You won't get that painting back till it's printed. So if they don't use it for the next set or the next set, it's like 4 or 5 years down the road, you're finally getting the painting back, you know.
What is that art transfer process for you? Do you send scans? Do you like go somewhere and scan it? Do you scan them at home?
I scan them at home.
Scan them at home.
Yeah.
What do you use?
I need a new scanner at the moment, but but the one that I have is like a Umax. I forget the number, but it's, you know, it's pretty good size, but it really doesn't scan. It's not a big enough scanner for me. I need something that can scan like I would love to have one that could scan like an 18 by 24 painting without piecing it together. So now I have to piece everything together. So, you know, like I can get like all my sorcery's 11 by 14, so I could get like in 2 pieces. I could scan it, you know, piece it together in Photoshop. Is pretty simple. And but I would like to just at least do 11 by 14 would be nice without it having to be pieced together. So, but they're not cheap, you know.
So were you tempted when Eric told you to take the focus and pull focus on that to put it in Photoshop and?
Oh, you can't, because he knows as soon as he sees it. I tried to do that with, I forget what painting that was. I think it was Flame Wave, or no, it was there was one I did, Raining Rocks. That's not in the first set, right? That's not in Alpha. So that's one that might be bumped or not used. I'm not sure. But that was one where it was like I did the painting, and you know, it's hard when like you send them a final drawing and the drawing's approved, so you know, I'm good to go. I can transfer it and paint it. But then they get it and they, you know, say, can you make those Raining Rocks, this one a little bigger, this one a little smaller? And it's like it's already painted. So you would think like digitally, I'm just going to do that. You know, I'm going to go in and do it digitally, but he can tell, so you can't. So you have to like actually, and it's hard because sometimes the way that you might put the paint down on any particular painting just kind of falls in a certain way where it's like, wow, that's cool, but like you can't block it out and repaint that. It's just, it was done that way. There's no changing it, you know. It's just some ways the way the paint goes down, it's just like it does things that you weren't expecting, and then to cover it or to make, like if the rock is a certain size, to make it a little larger, that outer edge or whatever, how you're making it larger, is not going to look the same as the original part. They had that magic happen. So yeah, so things like that happen. and Flame Wave had, I don't know why, I don't know what happened, but the way it was painted, somehow he wanted me to lift the painting up so that, because some of it was getting, too much was getting covered by the frame on the text box on the bottom. So he wanted me to add like more bottom to the painting, which of course you can't really do. So I was going to do it digitally, and as soon as I sent it to him, he's like, you got to paint it. And I'm like, so basically what I did was I took like a piece of masonite, because I painted it on masonite. So I took a piece of masonite about, that high going across, and I put the painting, stacked it on top of that, just on my drawing table, and then just painted on that like one little piece, like it was part of it. And then I scanned that in and then pieced them together that way. So at least it looked like it was painted with paint, which it was. But yeah, so it's just, so when you see it on the card, it's a little different because there's a little more bottom to boost it up. So. And the other one was Upwelling, was another one that happened to, where I painted it originally to look like, and I thought that's what they wanted, was I painted it to look like more like a tornado or dust devil or something, where it was it was coming across the land and pulling up dirt and debris, that kind of thing. And then after it was all finished, no, it has to be a water kind of cyclone kind of the thing. And I'm like, oh, water spout or whatever. So I was going to, of course, you go into Photoshop and you just do like some sort of a tint over it and just kind of tweak a few things and you're done. But you can't do that. So I had to paint it. Yeah.
What do you ultimately do with that? Do you then use that for something else? Do you kind of bank that and make it something available later on?
No, I mean, I had to go in and actually fix it. I had to, in some ways repaint it. I had to go over. So I basically.
So you didn't start over with a new paint?
Yeah, that was essentially what I was asking.
No, I did like a glaze of some blues with oil, glazed over spots, and then went in with opaque paint and started to like make the dirt look more like water and repaint some of it. Yeah, it was a little tricky trying to make it all look like water, but yeah, it worked out eventually. But it doesn't happen too often. So far, it hasn't happened for this next set. Didn't happen in Arthurian Legends. None of them had anything like that where I had to tweak them like that.
Are you picturing the text box on the painting while you're making those recent paintings? Kind of just avoiding being asked to like make any alters with that text
Don't
box.
spend a lot of time in this section.
I don't, though. I try not to. I really try to make the focus up on top. I mean, you want to make it look like a nice painting in the end, so if someone buys it, they want to have you don't want just like the bottom to be completely blacked out. But I do try to keep the bottom half either like more in shadow or less detailed or whatever, and keep the focus up on top. But and I really do pay attention to the text box when I'm designing it, so that, and I send him the sketch, I do send it so that he can see, here's the text box, and, everything is out of the way. The most important things are, not covered. But still, you just never know. Like sometimes they might want to shift it a certain way, and then all of a sudden when they shift it, then things are blocked out, and then you got to fix it, so. And he really is pretty hard on not wanting it to be digitized at all, so, which is fine with me. I mean, I get it. He's trying to be like, this is all traditional art. There's no digital anything, and that's the charm of the game, I guess, the art. So.
That's the nice part about the foil, though, too. Then is on the backside you see the full art. So where if there is something blocked out by the text
Yeah, that's
You
great.
can see that.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Alan, did you get a late start?
Yes.
When did you start?
Quarter to 10, 10, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Why? Are you supposed to be in here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, you whenever you want.
Make a few closing comments and
Sure.
In conclusion.
In conclusion, as I was saying, yes, I might be painting this back on my table if it slows down. So if you're, you come by, you might see me working on it. But and if you have any questions, anybody have any other questions while I'm here, while I'm doing this?
You want to talk about your subvote material for the third set?
For the third set? I can't say anything about that.
How long was the NDA contract you had to sign?
Until it comes out, at least. Yeah, but it's cool. That's all I can tell you. It's cool. It's a lot of fun. They're all different, though. Every set so far is kind of unique. So, yeah. But you probably won't see anything from that till like this time next year. So, unfortunately, I wish it would happen quicker, but.
For your grapple shot, the COA said that the copyright belonged to Eric Curioso. Did they still own part of it?
No, that was my fault. I shouldn't have wrote that on there. I assume because all gaming companies own the rights. And I just realized when I was getting ready for this show that they don't. That this is like the one gaming company that the artist keeps the copyrights, which is pretty sweet. All right. That's all I'm going to do. Thanks for coming by. You're welcome.